Good Morning La La Land. I'm Dr. Erin.
Hi, I'm Rob Mack.
And I'm Jasmine Moyer. This is Good Morning La La Land, America's first live streaming daily talk show, coming to you Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and Twitter. Now also available on Apple TV and Roku.
Right, today's all about Transformation Tuesday. We're going to talk about transforming the body, mind, and spirit. We're going to talk about diets, transforming diets into living a life of a divine self-love. Right?
Right.
Let's do it.
And the little music will transform your day. That was one of my favorite Madonna songs ever.
I love Madonna.
I gotta credit Erin. She always picks Madonna at the top of the show. And that Il Bonita, it's like, ooh, I am no longer in LA. I have transformed into, I don't know, Miami.
It feels like the Caribbean seas.
Madonna, let's face it, Madonna has transformed as dysfunctional, chaotic. She has taken the women's race to self-expression like no other. I mean, I'm just bow to that woman. I'm sorry.
She's the master of reinvention.
She is.
And she's completely unapologetic and from Michigan.
Oh,
From
she
Michigan.
is?
She is.
All the
I
best
didn't
people
know
from Michigan,
that.
aren't they, Justin?
Tell me again, Rob. Well, we're so excited to welcome up to the show our very special guest today. We have Ms. Peggy Tanis from the Orange County. I recognize her from Real Housewives, Orange County on Bravo. Good morning, Peggy.
Good morning.
Oh, thank you so much for being with us today. You look beautiful as always.
Thank you for having me.
And Dr. Nina is in the house. She's a psychotherapist and author, host of the Dr. Nina Show here on Focus TV. Good morning, Dr. Nina.
Good morning. Great to be here.
Oh, we're so excited to have you here. This is obviously our morning routine, but we're very curious. How do you start your day? What's your morning routine like, Dr. Nina?
It starts with coffee. Lots and lots and lots of coffee.
Me too.
If I could just figure out a way to inject it, that would be a good thing.
I'm working on that, so if I come up with any good inventions, I'll definitely share that with you.
Coffee and then patience and then my radio show and my books and my kids, and it's a beautiful, glorious, busy life.
Every day you're hustling, and she does it so elegantly, doesn't she?
Yep.
And what about you, Peggy? How do you start your day? What's your morning routine like?
I'm getting my 2 children off to school, and then once they're dropped at school, I usually do a workout, whether it's boxing or Pilates. I do a lot of walking, light weights, so definitely get my workout in and start my day. I've got my own fitness DVD, so anyone out there that has a little one, you can use your child as your weight and resistance. It's a 30-minute total body workout. So that's fun, and just been getting back into the swing of things.
Talk about true transformation right there, right?
Love it.
Love it.
Boxing's a great workout.
Absolutely.
It is, oh my God, I hadn't boxed in a while and it kicked my booty. I mean, I was literally like, I went in there last week and I was like, oh my God, it's only 30 minutes of boxing and my shirt was just drenched in sweat.
Yeah, it's exhausting. And
It's
you get a great
very-
right hook from it as well.
Exactly.
I will say there's a lot of cute guys that go to boxing.
Well, I'm married, so I don't think I, noticed them, but yeah, there are some in there.
You can notice them.
Yeah, you can look, you just can't touch.
I'll do that part for you. No problem. I'll take that challenge. Well, thank you, ladies, so much for being here with us today. We're excited to talk to you more later in the show.
Right. So what a show yesterday. Whew. All
I know.
on confidence. So many extraordinary women in the house.
Absolutely. It was a show dedicated to being confident in your own skin. So we welcomed world-renowned dermatologist Dr. Sandra Lee. You may know her as Dr. Pimple Popper.
We went down to the Henry because they talked about, okay, we're going to go back to this, but
Yeah.
they were saying how they bonded to the girls through doing shots called blowjobs. So we went down to the Henry and they ordered espresso shots and they called them blowjobs. But, it was all in good times. So
bonding
funny, hilarious.
experience.
Yes.
It was a very special episode. We're so excited to do a partner. Special thanks to Kate Morgan with Morgan Publicity for making it all happen. Let's take a look at the rewind from yesterday.
I have to say something else too that what I find really compelling about your show is the fact that you're all really positive, and I see the support and love here, because a lot of times I'll be on shows and you'll see people talk to each other and be really friendly on camera, and then off camera they're just like they don't talk to each other, on the phones, they're doing their
Great
own
actors.
thing. But you guys love each other, it's obvious, and I think that is what is going to make it successful.
Know your job, do your job, mind your business. You know what I mean? Like, I'm here to just do one thing, and that is my job. I'm not here to get personal into your life. I just want to make you look and feel good. That's the most rewarding thing to me. And the fact that I'm in charge of this person's image is everything, and I love it.
Sibley Scholes, E! News correspondent. This is very strange for me to be getting the questions asked of me. So if I flip them on you, forgive me. We accept the challenge.
I always tell my daughters, your confidence should not come from,
what you're wearing or how you're dolled up. Your confidence is going to come from your knowledge and your heart, and really staying true with who you are.
I try to focus on the times that I've been successful more than the times I've failed, and use the failures to learn something. I mean, I have failed more times than I care to count. I've learned a lot of lessons the hard way, and I still do. I'm a new parent. I make mistakes every day.
We can be positive role models, which I think you definitely are, to young women around the world, and I think that that's really important for me to try to represent myself in that way. And that looks like rebellion to people, and maybe it is.
So it's so cool. What's it like for you guys to be living your Dharma?
I don't know. I like that though. I'm gonna have to go Google Dharma now.
I will say though, I did get nervous recently. Tom Cruise, that was, I was like, oh, it's Tom.
Yes.
I was like,
Mission
is
Impossible.
he talking to me right now? I didn't know what I was talking about, but I got words out.
Well, I will say, after the initial conversation when I met you the first time at one of your events, I've been using SLMD skincare religiously since then, and it has completely transformed my skin. And she did not pay me to say this right now.
Those women are extraordinary, and I think what's fascinating is they're all very confident, of course, but they have found ways of bonding with each other through going up to, spending time together, going to on vacations together, taking time. I think it's really important in today's world, especially as girlfriends. Like, it's hard to bond with people when we're all so busy. Like, how do we do that, and how do we take the time out to do that? They're really good at that.
Yeah, and not competing, collaborating. Love that.
Now, that's so key. They were a group of wildly successful women in their own rights, from E to OWN, and Raquel. Dr. Sandra Lee's wing woman right there.
Oh my gosh,
I think
she's so
she's
sweet.
hilarious. Sweet. It takes a village to make a show like this happen, and we're so grateful. We say we're hashtag community powered here at Focus TV. We have a look at the behind the scenes so you too can see what it's like when you're on set.
Another turning point, a fork stuck in the road. Time grabs you by the wrist, directs you where to go. So make the best of this test and don't ask why. It's not a question but a lesson learned in time. It's something unpredictable, but in the end is right. I hope you had the time of your life. So take the photographs and still frames in your mind, hanging on a shelf in good health and good time. Tattoos and memories and dead skin on trial. For what it's worth, it was worth all the while. It's something unpredictable, but in the end is right. I hope you had the time of your life. It's something unpredictable, but in the end it's right. I hope you had the time of your life. It's something unpredictable, but in the end is right.
Have a divine day.
It's going to be a good one, Mom.
So cute. What they don't see is us on Sunday, like, it's completely exhausted. Comatose, right?
Sunday, that's like usually Friday afternoon.
Right.
Well, a special thank you to our executive producer, Andy Wellman, for capturing some of those magic moments. We clearly have no fun around here.
Yeah.
It's been an epic journey. We're in our month 8, so thank you for sticking with us, for supporting us, for continuing the conversation, and being a part of our dream as a community of La La Land. It means the world to us.
So much. So today's Transformation Tuesday, and we're going to take a little break. When we come come back, we're going to talk about how to transform your diets into living a divine life of self-love. Stay tuned, we'll be right back.
You got this, girl. Here we go.
Oh my God, you're gonna make me laugh.
That was a good practice run, though.
It was a practice run, a little slow on the uptake. Let's.
Hi, my name is Jessie Golden, and I am the creator of The Golden Secrets. Hang on a second, sorry. Can we start over?
I'm Wendy Brokaw.
I'm Paula Marshall. By the way, this is politics, okay? This is not ticks. I hated it. Let's do it one more time.
Well, that's why I created Just a Thought meditation recordings, so that you can meditate in your sleep. Pause it there. Can you edit it in?
Being new in town, it gives me a perspective on, oh shit, no, that was wrong.
No, can we start all over? That's too much talking.
No, I'm an actress. I mean, you've seen me. Hopefully.
Yeah, it's like so hard. It's so hard. That was so hard.
Once you go chocolate, you don't want to stop it.
Oh, God.
I'll stop.
Let's do it one more time.
Bitching,
Didn't work.
complaining.
Let me do it one more time.
We're going to
Didn't
do
work.
it one more time.
Ready? And action.
Do I just talk again?
If you are vegan, you get a vegan broth. Jesus, guys. Fuck. I'm blah, blah.
I wish my boobs looked like yours. Where are they?
It's single issue. Single issue.
Andy, did I make it fun yet? Thank you. It's no longer a golden secret. We're done!
Welcome back to Good Morning La La Land. We are honoring #Transformation Tuesday, and we have two very, very special guests in the house who have mastered just that. We have Miss Peggy Tanis. You may recognize her from Real Orange County. Good morning, Peggy.
Good morning.
And we also have Dr. Nina. She's a psychoanalyst and therapist. Hello, Dr. Nina.
Hello.
So you two have truly mastered transformation in a very physical form. What do you think has been the greatest key to your success in that transformation? Nina, I'd like to start with you.
I think I help people realize that they are more than just what they look like. And when you tap into who you are and you appreciate and love and support yourself, you don't need looking perfect to give you self-esteem. And I think that's transformative.
Love, love, love. Love
Really,
that.
really, truly. Peggy, what about you?
I think for me, I battled postpartum depression, and it's something with, as moms, you have to give yourself a break, and we're not perfect, and we're going to have breakdowns. We're going to have days where we're not such great moms, and we're going to say ugly things, or we're going to do ugly things, and it's just, you have to just be accepting of yourself and forgiving of yourself.
So beautiful, so well said. Well, thank you both for sharing your truth and your light and your time with us this morning. We're excited to talk to you more about your stories later in the show.
Right, so Transformation Tuesday, we're going to talk about how to basically overcome dieting. It's something that we know, stats show, and I know people say, well, diets work if you work them, but the point is diets don't work. The facts, the cold facts are in, and we have 62% of adults are overweight or obese, and we have a major issue in not only the United States but around the globe. And so we look at this and from a body, mind, spirit perspective, and all discord is a spiritual thing going on. So I just want to gab about this, and knowing that the truth is that the reasons why, from a metaphysical perspective, why diets don't work is because whatever we focus on expands, right? So if we focus on what we don't want to eat, then it's going to basically, it persists, and we actually want more of that food. So that's why diets don't work. Lifestyle works. Choosing to love, choosing to eat whole food, choosing to love yourself works. So, I personally dealt with bulimia when I was 17 to 20, and Dr. Nina's book, Food for Thought, she basically perspectives on eating disorders. And there's spectrums, right? Some people are just have kind of a bad relationship with food, and then there can be total disorders, dysfunction, eating disorders. And so no matter where, I think we're all on that that spectrum somewhere, because I don't know anybody that's eating like just perfect health, but I think that there is a spectrum there. So I think it's best to just have a conversation about it. So what do you think about it? Do you ever deal with people that are dealing with eating disorders
all the time.
at all?
Oh,
you do?
Yeah. Well, I think probably the greatest key to my own transformation with food or with anything has been mindfulness. It's just moment to moment awareness of how I'm feeling when I'm doing anything, right? So for a long time, I think the challenge with me was that I wasn't going slow enough or eating slow enough to truly deeply enjoy my food or even notice how it was making me feel. But when I was able to slow down and engage more mindfully and deeply in the experience of eating, all of a sudden I discovered like some foods don't make me feel good at all. Some foods I enjoy while I'm eating, and then afterwards I feel horrible. And so you just start making little tiny tweaks when you actually experience the discomfort of eating foods or even, taking certain behaviors that aren't necessarily healthy.
And isn't it funny to recognize too that discomfort isn't normal? You're not supposed to feel that way after you eat something. That was a huge revelation for me in noticing some of the things that work and don't work in my diet, and also doing some study with acupuncturists in my life and reading books like Eat Right for Your Blood Type. It was really informative because when I found that if I focus on what do I need to feed myself to feel my best, one, I felt better. Two, I actually enjoyed what I was eating. And three, I wasn't so stressed out about everything I wasn't supposed to eat. I just really focused on, hey, these are the things I do need to get into my diet. This fuels my energy, this fuels my blood, this fuels my oxygen levels. And when I eat that way, I sleep better, I look better, and overall I just am my better self.
That's so true, Jess.
But one of the things, like working with clients, a lot of times people will know what to eat and yet they still choose, things they know aren't going to make them feel the best, right?
Wow.
So coming into a perspective of the subconscious mind, we're habitual beings. We have triggers, we have things that are there. So a lot of times it comes down to, having self-sabotage, and those usually come from traumatic incidences. So again, I know it's like bizarre that, what you're choosing to eat can relate to something around, having trauma of your parents getting divorced or random things that happen that always align to different things, whether they come out in your workaholism or your food addiction or whatever it is. It's all coming from a place that needs to be healed.
I still can't figure out what trauma surrounded chocolate in my life, but something happened at a very young age with chocolate, because now I have no control when it comes to it.
Part of the challenge too, and the opportunity, Jazz, and you do a great job of highlighting that, is like we develop associations sometimes when we're very young between food and love, or between food and happiness. And so I know that, in our family, like food was a very important thing, and we often enjoyed, food together. And so oftentimes you begin to, that association grows over the period of your life. And when you're not feeling particularly loved, you're not feeling particularly happy, sometimes you'll reach for food because of that association between those things. So to that end, I'll say one of the greatest things or changes that I ever made in my life was moving to Miami, because I discovered that when I was really deeply, truly happy, I didn't have the same like cravings for food that I did when I was living in Philadelphia and it was cold and I was working a job that I hated. So definitely, I think prioritizing happiness and peace and love allows you to overcome a lot of these other challenges.
For sure. It's also like a push and pull. So the measurement always with any kind of addiction is, can you have it or not have it? And that's kind of the measurement. If you're trying to constantly push it away or trying to control it and pull it in, you know that there's something energetically going on. So always, when you can just like, your mind's not going to the food over and over throughout the day. Addiction is like, it's a loop within the mind. So when you are freed up, it's like, I remember that feeling of healing and being like, oh, I'm not thinking about food or what I'm going to eat next or how I'm going to eat it or should I eat it or, all that like just constant energy around it. It's like, whew, I got to just say, I'm so thankful to be healed in that realm. There's nothing like that freedom.
Oh, it's incredible. And would you say, Erin, that it was the bite-sized steps that helped the most, or did you make a whole lot of change right away?
Unintended.
No, for me, it was like deep. It was like deep trauma work, journaling, going through all my stuff. I just know, for me, it was like a deep dive into healing myself. I mean, after that, of course, you're still, I think as all of us, we're trying to figure out what works and doesn't work. When we go into the gas station, there's junk in our face 24/7. There's food everywhere. We have toxic food all over the place. So I think that there's a constant reevaluate of what works for you and doesn't work for you from a baby step perspective. But from a healing perspective, I think majority of people have to go really deep to go to the core, the roots. It's like pulling out the weeds. You got to get way down into the roots.
Absolutely. That's why I love what Dr. Nina said, because I find it's absolutely true with not only like food or addiction around food, but any kind of addiction or any kind of problem, is that for me, the master key to sort of solving anything has been diving deep enough to realize or recognize my spiritual identity and being crystal clear about that. And then from that, sometimes changes, not sometimes, always the changes seem to happen more organically and easily.
For sure.
I don't want to dive deep. I just washed my hair.
Yeah, stay out of the water, Jess.
I'm staying out of these waters. Well, I'm excited to have this conversation that would dive deep into the conversation with our guests. So stay tuned. We'll be back with Good Morning La La Land.
Hello, Los Angeles. I am your host and producer, Alex Worley, filming inside Focus TV's West Hollywood studio. Welcome to Empowerista, a show dedicated to highlighting female trailblazers and empowering you to turn your barriers into breakthroughs.
Hey guys, I'm Amy Packrat.
And I'm Justin Walter.
And this is What's Good, the show that's dedicated to positive, uplifting news from all over the world.
We are live.
Live from Los Angeles. Welcome to Good Morning La La Land. I'm Dr. Erin.
Hi, I'm Rob Mack.
And I'm Jez Moyer. This is Good Morning La La Land, America's first live streaming daily talk show, coming to you Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and Twitter. Now also available on Apple TV and Roku. It's going to be a Good Morning La La Land.
Hola, yo soy Gina Moreno y soy una reportera aquí en Los Ángeles. Para mí, mi pasión es para decir las historias de las personas que han luchado lo imposible. Todas las entrevistas aquí en Focus TV. Hi, I'm Gina Moreno, a reporter here in Los Angeles, and my passion is to tell people's stories, the stories of people who have accomplished the impossible. For all the interviews, make sure to watch Focus TV.
Watching, yeah.
Oh, class. Live from Los Angeles, welcome back to Good Morning La La Land. I'm so excited to welcome to the show Miss Peggy Tanis. You may recognize her from Real Housewives of Beverly
Orange County. Everyone
Orange
always thinks I'm from Beverly Hills, so it's so funny. I get that all the time, so it's okay.
Maybe you're going to be moving to Beverly Hills. You just don't know it yet. You know?
I don't think so, but you never know.
Well, I mean, you were born and raised Orange County, right?
I was, yeah.
Tell
I was
us.
one of the only, I think, housewives that are originally from Orange County. Like they're all from either out of state or like maybe, you know, I think Tamara was from like San Bernardino, and they're all from different areas, but I'm like truly from Orange County. Born and raised.
So tell us about it, because I read some stats years ago, and I don't have the reference right now, but I heard that Orange County has one of the highest depression rates in the country.
I wouldn't doubt it. I don't know that. I didn't know that, but I wouldn't doubt it. I know for me personally, I battled postpartum depression, and I have a lot of friends down there that are battling it. And it seems like, I think there's so much wealth down there, and there's so much competition, and so much people trying to keep up with the Joneses, or just trying to be something maybe they're not. And I think that leads to a lot of depression.
Was it like that from your early days as a child? No,
I was always a very happy, well-rounded kid. I'd like to say, everyone always says, you don't seem like you're from Orange County. I think my parents were smart. They kidnapped us, and our whole summer we spent in Utah. So I grew up, you know, in jeans and riding horses, and, you know, riding bareback and driving on dirt roads and going and getting frogs in the woods, and, you know, so it was very, a lot of nature. And I think it was a good balance to have Orange County as the place I go to school, and, you know, but then I would escape off to the mountains.
Mm-hmm. So what did that look like for you? What was postpartum depression? What was that experience for you?
You know, it was really tough. I wanted babies from the time I was like 21. I mean, I was that young girl that would, you know, I always hold babies and always wanted babies. So when I was, you know, a little bit older when I married, and I had my first baby at 38. I'm dating myself, but it's the truth. And I had London, and I got pregnant, and I was so excited. And it was like, oh my God, this is, you know, it's finally happening. And then about 7.5 months into the pregnancy, I had torn my ACL and my meniscus. And you can't do surgery because I'm pregnant. So I started getting depressed because I was very active while I was pregnant. I was doing Pilates and yoga and very active. And all of a sudden I'm like on crutches and laying, you know, in bed or in the house, and I was going nuts. So then when I had her, I remember when they brought her to me, I was kind of freaked out. I was like, you know, they hand you the baby, and I'm like, what am I supposed to do? And I thought that it would be more like, oh my God, my baby, you know, I'm so happy. And I wasn't excited. Heartbreaking, because you want to be. And so then you think like, oh, it's probably just because I'm so exhausted, or, you know, whatever, it's all my hormones. But 3-4 months into it, I was getting angry when I'd have to feed her. I was always feeling like I never had enough. Like my husband would say, you know, why don't you just take a break for the day? And he would hire a limo to come get me, and he would take me, you know, send me off to the spa for the whole day. I'd have like, you know, facial, massage, and everything possible, acupuncture, and I'd get lunch, and I'd come home and I'd be like, I just need a break. And he's like, oh my God, you were at the spa for 10 hours. Like, I don't understand. And I didn't see it because I was in it. And then it was my mother-in-law. She's a naturopath, and thank God. And so she sat me down and she said, you're not yourself. You're not the Peggy we used to know. You were always happy and easygoing and just vibrant, and you're sad and you're angry, and you're just not you. And she goes, I really think you have postpartum depression. So I went and saw my doctor, and they always want to put you on meds. And I'm against meds unless I absolutely need them. So I told the doctor, I said, I want to do this holistically if I can. And so my mother-in-law put me on a couple different things. I did 5-HTP, SAMI, L-theanine, and they worked. And I was very fortunate. So then it was a process. And so then I had my second daughter, and it was a whole different world. I mean, and I felt so much guilt because when they handed me Capri, I was like, oh my God, my baby. And I couldn't get enough of her. And so it was a completely different experience. And then I got on Housewives, and I got contacted by a girlfriend of mine, Tanya Newbold, and she's an actress. And she said, I'm involved in this documentary about postpartum depression, and I'd like you to be a part of it. So I asked Bravo if they'd film it, and they filmed me being interviewed for the documentary. Then the documentary was put on hold for a while because the star of it, Lindsay Gertz, she was going through it. She went through postpartum for 6 years. So she had a lot of things going on. They had to, you know, kind of postpone it. So then years later, they came back. They did like a, you know, where are you now type of interview, and it was just released last year.
Wow. So we have a look. Let's take a peek.
Peggy Tanis, and I was originally born and raised in Orange County, which is kind of rare. I've wanted kids my whole life. So when I had London, I actually had a great pregnancy, and all of a sudden I have her, and they bring her over to me, and I'm like frozen. That's when the postpartum started. I've been suffering from postpartum depression for the last 3 years. Pretty much, I'd say, from the day London was born. All of a sudden I'm home with this baby, and I was like, I felt afraid. And I didn't think that that would be a feeling a new mom would have, would be afraid. I was having really dark days. I had this amazing daughter, this amazing husband, a beautiful house, a great lifestyle. And I'd wake up and I just wouldn't want to get out of bed. I remember calling my older sister and I said, I really need you to talk to me right now because I really feel like I could go upstairs and get the gun. You know, I never ever had a desire to injure my babies. Thank God. It was more about me. It was more like I should just take my own life. So I feel like we're in a really good place now. I mean, there's still, of course, days where I'd wake up and I didn't want to get out of bed. My best advice to women is, you know, that it will get better. It doesn't matter what you have or what your looks are. It can happen to anybody.
Such an important topic. So in your experience going through this, you know, obviously, how much do you think it is biochemical and hormonal versus just spiritually you feel like something you're not living in alignment with your truth?
I think it's both. I think it's probably more of the chemical and the hormones. But you know, there are studies out there that they say also with age, with older moms, it is more prevalent to be postpartum. But for me, I guess I feel thankful that I wanted to hurt myself and not my child. If you watch the documentary, which is available on Netflix, you'll see it goes from people like me that weren't, you know, that bad, and then it goes all the way to women that, I mean, there's one woman in the documentary that she killed her daughter, and she went to jail. And when she got out of jail, she felt like she was on the path of recovering, and then she ended up committing suicide.
Well, what's fascinating is thank you so much for sharing and being so vulnerable. And that's like, to say that on camera is, I can't imagine how many women go through that and they're too embarrassed. They would never say that. And so I just really want to honor you for that. But I also honor the path that you didn't go to pharmaceuticals. And I think that everyone has their own right. Everyone, there's a time and a place for everything. And we know through Tom Cruise's like completely not okay, because if you haven't gone through that, you have no voice in it as far as I'm concerned. But I do believe that the natural way is the best way. And so tell us about that. How was that? How are all those processes for you?
I agree with you, and I've always been an advocate for, you know, I was kind of coined the girl on the show as the glam girl meets the granola girl, because I can have glam looks, but at heart I'm really that Utah girl that's just, you know, all about granola. And I didn't want to do meds, and I actually I don't think I've ever admitted this, so you guys are getting the first take at it. I actually did at one point try meds for about 2 months, and I was out of my mind. I mean, I actually felt worse. So I went back to the holistic. For me, I still to this day get constant emails and, you know, messages on Instagram and everywhere else, you know, what can we do? And other women that are reaching out to me. I had a man that reached out to me, and this was probably the nicest thing, is he wanted to leave his wife because he thought that, you know, like, she's turned into this nightmare. He didn't know she had that. And so by watching me on Housewives, he was like, oh my God, that's probably what she has. And I tell women all the time, first of all, I'm not a doctor, so I can't tell you what's going to work for you. I would say go to your doctor, talk to your doctor about it. But there are a lot of things out there. I mean, I mentioned Sammy. 5-HTP is an amazing product. And for me, working out was a big thing too, and that's part of why I did my fitness DVD, because I felt like and still to this day, if I don't work out, I start to go cuckoo. Like, I have to have that just to release that energy.
Well, and the reality is that women that are getting pregnant later, like, it takes everything out of your body to have a baby. Yeah. And I mean, I was 22 when I had my stillborn and 23 when I had my son, and I was a disaster because it takes everything. So I can't imagine, you know, as we get older, you know, we don't have the same, like, vibrancy to just have that resources for that.
Or the patience.
Or the patience.
So many women though carry guilt and shame and are afraid to come out and tell their story and be vulnerable in a way that you have. How would you tell them to release that guilt and that shame and to forgive themselves?
I had that too, and I think because I signed on to do a reality show, and I came from the TV world, but I had never done reality. But once I was doing reality, it's like, okay, well, this is reality, so I should go out there and tell my story, because there probably are a lot of women out there that are feeling this. And I tell women still to this day, the best thing you can do is talk to somebody. And if it's not your husband, because sometimes that's too close to home and maybe he's not going to understand, then talk to a friend. If, you know, go to a therapist. I mean, do what it takes. My husband and I went to therapy. I went by myself. We went together. You know, we just had our 13-year wedding anniversary, so things are great. Thank you. my daughter, my youngest just turned 9, which I can't believe I have a 9-year-old and a 10-year-old, but it definitely, it's just, I think it's women need to, if they're not gonna, you know, they don't have to go out there in the public and speak about it, but go to a support group, go, you know, find a friend you can trust, because you are gonna have days where you don't wanna get out of bed and you need somebody that can kind of lift you and help you get out of bed.
And when you do, try this DVD.
And then do the DVD, the Total Body Workout. Yeah, you can get it on PeggyTanos.com or on Amazon, and it's, the whole reason I did it is my daughters, we were filming an episode on Housewives where I was working with a trainer, and London kept coming in and jumping on me, and I was like, I should just use her as my weight. And so then I thought of the DVD. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna start. So I came up with a DVD where you use the child as the weight and resistance. You can use a child that's 6 months old, put them in a carrier, all the way up to, you know, 5 or 6.
It's really actually brilliant and a great way for, as a new mom, to bond with your child, right?
Absolutely. It teaches kids the importance of fitness, which I think kids need to learn from the get-go. And there's also, at the end, I do a little segment of yoga. It teaches the kids yoga, how to calm themselves before bed.
I just love that. What would you know? One of the things I've discovered in my own life is that the worst experiences in my life have often turned out to be the best experiences. There's these hidden blessings that don't unfold until years and years later. For you, were there any blessings or growth that came out of that experience for you? Sometimes for some people it's stronger relationships, or what would you say has been the greatest blessing that you've experienced from that very challenging experience?
I think helping other moms and even dads too. I mean, I think just helping people. I really, I've been talking to some of the producers with the documentary since it just came out, and we were talking about doing some kind of a support group. I just feel like, you know, Christy Teigen came out recently that she's gone through postpartum. Brooke Shields had it. There's a lot of people that have it, and I think if we can start some kind of a show or some kind of a, you know, network for it, I think it would be really beneficial, and that's what's probably the most rewarding, is just helping people, making a difference.
I love that.
And the fact that I made it through alive, and and my kids are happy and my husband's happy, and you know, that's a blessing.
And you're saving the lives of other people and just sharing that story.
I hope. Yeah.
You really are.
Thank you so much. So where can people find all your work?
The documentary When the Bow Breaks, and ironically enough, there's a movie When the Bow Breaks, so you have to put in When the Bow Breaks documentary. It's on Netflix, and if you do have postpartum, they will come to you and they'll show the movie, whether it's at, you know, your local library or at a local theater. So we had a screening at Man's Chinese, but so that's When the Bow Breaks, and it's on Netflix. And then the Peggy Tanos Total Body Workout with your toddler. And you don't have to have a toddler. I have people that use it with their dog. I'm like, use it with your dog. You know, I just tell them if they don't have a kid, like use ankle weights, put on wrist weights, whatever. They can get that at PeggyTanos.com or on Amazon.
Oh, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
We really appreciate it. Stay tuned. We'll be back with more Good Morning La La Land.
Hi everyone, my name is Victoria Simone, and this is Jasmine Moye, and we're at Focus TV Network, and we are reporting to you what happened this week in Focus. Last week on the #Harry and Kelly Show, we had
Ryan Kendrick.
Yes. On the LA Home Show, we featured
a very special guest with her own furniture company, Ms. Farrah Abraham.
On Purpose with Brittany Zonker, we had
Acro Yoga with Andrew Seeley, Cupping with Dr. Lee, and also Eric Bigger.
Speaking of Andrew Seeley, he was on Good Morning La La Land.
He did, and I tried Acro Yoga here on set for the very first time.
I think we have some footage of that.
Oh God.
Speaking of Good Morning La La Land, we had a week full of guests. Who was on that show?
We had a ton of special guests. I'm so excited to announce we had Farrah Abraham on the show. She brought her daughter, Sophia.
So cute.
We also featured J.J. Jurgens, the creator of Tom Girl TV, as well as James Arthur Ray. We also had a great demonstration by Andrew Hernandez, who is a special instructor for Strong by Zumba. And then I also had the incredible honor to go on location to the Gibson showroom for the final broadcast from their stage.
Speaking of the Gibson event, you were at a lot of events last week.
I was. We were also celebrating Concern Foundation's 44th annual block party at the Paramount backlot. And if you can't tell, we have a lot of fun here. Let's take a look.
COO and founder of Building Construction Group, Scott Harris.
Sorry, it's co-founder.
Oh, fuck me, Natalie. And co-founder of the Building Group, Scott Harris.
Thank you, Building Construction Group.
Oh shit, let's do it again.
Once you go chocolate, you don't want to stop it.
God.
I'll stop.
Why are you making it so complicated? She hasn't gone in and out and in her shirt again.
This is so hard. What else do I need to do?
Andy, can we see the monitor? We don't know. I don't know what my hair looks like. I have to. It's not fair.
The heavyweight, the UFC middleweight. I totally fucked that up. Hang on a second.
I wish my boobs looked like yours. Where are they?
On last week's episode of Harry and Kelly, we had
Right, Kendrick. Yeah. I almost called him Kendrick Lamar.
Why are we not taking like outtakes?
Yeah, why aren't we
This is
chasing
so
this?
funny.
Thank you all so much for the laughs and being community powered. That was This Week in Focus.
Welcome back to Good Morning LALALAND. We're so honored to have Dr. Nina in the house. She's a psychoanalyst. She is an author, food for thought. She has an LA Talk radio show, and we're just happy to see you. How are you?
I'm well, and I'm so happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Right, such an important thing on Transformation Tuesday. I'm sure you transform many, many lives. So tell us about that. What is that process of transformation?
Well, you know, I think I should talk about my own process of transformation because it's most illustrative of what I do for other people.
That.
So when I was 5 years old, I randomly decided my thighs were fat. They were not. I was a totally normal kid. I wasn't watching media, wasn't allowed to watch TV. And yet, this was the beginning of my descent into eating disorder hell. So by the time I was a teenager, I was just like anorexia, bulimia, binge eating in a cycle. I was the poster child for eating disorders.
Did you know?
Oh, I knew. And I would go hiking with friends, and instead of like, oh, it's such a beautiful day, I'd be like, okay, how many calories am I burning? Will I lose weight by tomorrow? Well, this was my life, and I was totally preoccupied. Every page of my journal was just numbers. You know? So then I finally went to therapy, and I went for 3 years, and I talked about everything but my eating disorders. My therapist had no idea that I was the poster child for eating disorders.
I really have to ask you this. Then, Nina, what was the catalyst for you going into therapy and then hiding it?
That is a great question. I think there is a part of me that wanted to heal, but I was also so ashamed of what I was doing that I couldn't even bear to tell my therapist. But at the end of the 3 years, all my eating disorders were gone. And when I tell people this, they're like, what? How do you get rid of an eating disorder without ever talking about the eating disorder? And that's what I realized, as you were saying to your point earlier, it's a symptom, it's a weed, and you've got to get to the root. And in my case, the root was my really mean relationship to myself.
Right.
And why at age 5 did I suddenly randomly decide my thighs were fat? Well, I'm always being told, I was just telling Rob, my parents are like these academic, ex-hippie college professor parents, very academic, very quiet. And I was like, wah! And they were always, you're too sensitive, you're too loud, you've got to calm down, you're too much, you're just too much. And that too muchness somehow became too much me. And so that is really what I do with my patients. I help them understand the symbolism of what they're doing with food, their relationship to themselves, and get to those roots.
Isn't that fascinating? When I was bulimic, it was literally living hell. I mean, if anyone has any idea of the living hell that goes on with an eating disorder, I'm like, at least I could have chosen to be an alcoholic and having some fun and doing some crazy. It was such an isolating hell.
Yes.
And it's so fascinating, though, that command that you gave of I'm too much, you know, went into I'm too much physically. Isn't that fascinating?
Yeah, and I consider myself, people say, well, what's a psychoanalyst? And I'm like, well, I'm a detective of the psyche. You know, I team up with my patients and we solve the mystery of why they're doing what they're doing. Because if you're doing something you don't want to do, or you're not doing something you want to do, there's always a reason. And so investigating what that reason is, and I particularly love the weed root analogy because the roots are underground. You cannot see them, just like the unconscious. You don't know you're unconscious, and yet we are so affected by it.
So would you attribute a lot of the healing that you experience to the realization that you just shared? Was it that? Was it the understanding that led to the transformation? Was it specific other principles that you applied? What would you attribute?
I would say that it's really recognizing, but it wasn't an aha Oprah moment. It wasn't like, oh my God, I'm mean to myself. I'm being my mother to myself. Must stop. You know, I mean, that it was gradually realizing that and working through it and changing the way that I related to myself, so that one day I just kind of realized, wow, I haven't thrown up today. Kind of like what you were saying. Or, huh, I've changed. Gradual transformation, and when and I'm flying in the world.
So where does a person even begin on that journey of self-love? Because you mentioned you were so mean to yourself. How do you begin to talk to yourself differently?
By realizing the way, why you talk to yourself the way that you talk to yourself. One of the things that I find really commonly is people talk about themselves in second person. So like a patient of mine said, she was like, oh, I'm gonna go, you know, I went to this party and I told myself beforehand, I'm gonna eat whatever. And then when I was driving home, I thought, oh my God, you ate so much. You are a pig. You will never lose weight. Now notice how she went from I am gonna eat whatever I want
to you.
To you. So I'm like, well, who's talking?
Interesting.
And sometimes just that, just realizing that there's a dialogue internally that used to be between you and someone else, and now is between parts of you, is transformative. And they can start noticing it and start stopping themselves and be like, oh, I just said you. Okay, who's talking? You know?
Such a profound realization. Eckhart Tolle actually attributes his entire sort of awakening to that moment when he discovered there were two voices in his head, or so he thought, two voices in his head, and he came to realize that that couldn't quite be possible, and so they kind of dissolved. But I love the way that you put it. It's just...
I've actually never heard that before.
That's psychoanalysis. It's that we identify with sometimes with the way that we're treated, and then we end up treating ourselves the same way, or seeking to repair an original wound with familiar people.
And it might not even be a wound we know we have.
Exactly. That's why it's a root.
So we internalize the voices that we hear on the outside in our own head.
Exactly. And then instead of, stop criticizing me, mom, dad, whatever, whoever, it becomes teacher, it doesn't have to be always parents, it becomes you criticizing you. And when you realize it and you challenge it and you stop it,
it's so profound because, and Erin and I have had this conversation a little bit before, you know, when you look into the spiritual teachings, a lot of them share very similar insights. Like Jesus would often talk about leaving mother and father, and it wasn't about leaving them physically, so to speak, but leaving the sort of attachment and the voices that you have in your head about what they were telling you as children that you've internalized, and sort of dropping all of that.
Exactly. It's just different language for the same thing. But it, however, whatever you call it, whether it's spiritual or religious or analytic, it's doing it and doing the work and going through the difficult process of recognizing how is the past haunting your present, that you can actually leave the past in the past. If that makes sense.
We could call it like from going from divided, the division within, to going to divine, the oneness. But how would you recommend, because not everybody can come and do, you know, one-on-one psychoanalysis. So obviously your book, things like that. What are some suggestions? For me, I did a lot of journaling. At that point in my life, I couldn't afford therapy. And I did go to 12-step, but at that point in time, it didn't work for me from the eating disorder because I wasn't ready for that. I had to go into a different modality. What type of different processes would you recommend for people?
Well, I definitely recommend not 12-step because 12-step says, I am this. Yes. And my whole point is, no, you are you, perfectly imperfect, struggling with that. It does not it's not your identity.
Amen.
I mean, this is, so, and this is why I created my online program, because I wanted people who couldn't come to see me to be able to get these concepts. But, you know, anything that puts you in touch with yourself, anything that makes you curious, not critical about yourself. Look, if you've got an unhealthy relationship to food, it's not what you're eating that's the problem, it's what's eating at you. And so once you can face that and figure out that, even by journaling, thinking about it, just giving yourself some space.
I think it's interesting you say that about 12-step because I do think that there's 12-step's amazing for breaking certain cycles. like seeing your patterns and things like that. But usually when people are going for an eating disorder, they know they have a problem. They're not like, you know, it's not like, surprise, you have an eating disorder. Like, yeah, I threw up this morning. No, I have an eating disorder. I don't need to like see someone's cycle in it. I've been seeing my own cycle forever. Versus say like, you know, being in a relationship with an addict or someone who's seen their patterns, they see what's triggering them over and over again.
Exactly.
You know what else is so profound about what you're saying is that, you know, there's such beauty and power in not necessarily fighting whatever it is that you're challenged with head on. Like, if I hear you correctly from your story, you weren't focused on the food, you weren't focused on the eating, you were focused on things other than that, beneath that, beyond that, and by sort of getting at those things, you were able to resolve this other thing that was sort of really driving you.
The problem I thought was the problem was not the problem. There was the problem I thought was the problem was a weed, and I had to get to that root. And by getting to that root and digging it out, everything changes for good. For good.
A lot of times with people who have eating disorders, it's a vicious cycle they can never escape. Even though they may not give into those patterns, it's still a mental pattern in their head, right? It's still affecting their self-talk.
Yes.
You know, you mentioned speaking to yourself differently, but how do you really truly break free from those patterns?
With a lot of work. It's really hard. It is a lot easier to be focused on the scale. It is a lot easier to be focused on a food plan or eating clean or just really focused on that. It's easier. It's hard to think things that you don't want to think or feel things that you don't want to feel. In fact, you develop an eating disorder so you don't feel and think those
so
things.
you have control over it.
That's part of it, yeah.
You don't have control when you're doing all that dirty emotional work, right?
Yeah,
That's losing
messy.
control.
It's very messy. So being open and willing to be a little messy, to not look at emotions as weak, but look at them as human and be curious about it, not look like there's something wrong with you, not look at it like, oh, what's wrong with me that I'm doing this? But why am I doing this? What's this doing for me?
So true. So on your talk show on LA Talk Radio, do you primarily talk about eating disorders, or do you talk about everything?
Everything. I mean, most people don't realize that the most popular, if that's the right word, the most prevalent, that's the word, the most prevalent eating disorder is binge eating disorder. And most people with binge eating disorder don't know that they have it. They just think, wow, I have no control, I have no willpower, there's something wrong with me, I just love this too much. And so the show is for people who, with an unhealthy, unhappy relationship to food, they call me, or I have topics all to do with the root.
If you recognize that in somebody else's life, someone that's close to you, what is the best way to approach them about that?
The best way is to not shame them and to come from a place of concern. Not like, not that you would do this, but I've heard people say, like, people will say to them, oh, you're having another one of those? You know, like, do you really need that? Like, totally shaming them. But to say, you know, I know this might be a difficult conversation, but I'm worried about your health. Can we talk? How can I help? And to ask open-ended questions. What's going on? What do you think is going on? You know, and just very gently open up a conversation.
Such a touchy subject, such as women to other women.
Or men. Half my practice is men.
Interesting.
And almost everyone in my practice is between the ages of 30 and 75.
Isn't that interesting?
People think that I treat 16-year-old anorexic girls. I don't.
Interesting. So fascinating. Well, we know that it is a spiritual disease because it's you know, our whole culture is dealing with this, and it's all of our issue. It's not just their issue. And I believe that we're all playing into it. We're playing to it by the crappy food that we're buying and the lack of us just coming together and doing heartfelt, you know, times together to commune. And so I just want to say thank you for all your work. It's so important. And I believe that all the work, it's all the same. Like, I don't really see a difference in any of the different denominations of different modalities and stuff. So it's it's so confirming, don't you think? Like that
100%.
it all comes down to the same, you know, subconscious and everything else. Right?
100%. I'd say, like, the one theme that I hear consistently over and over again is the ability to hold a safe space for non-judgmental awareness. And as a practitioner or helping professional, sort of mirroring or modeling that kind of non-judgmental observation and awareness for the client or for the patient, for your friend. And I don't know if love is anything but that.
And then they can internalize that.
That's right.
And that takes the place of the critic.
That's right.
I guess that answers your question.
It does. It does. Tell everyone where they can find your book and work with you in your program.
They can find everything on winthedietwar.com or latalkradio.com or Focus TV Network.
Yes.
The Dr. Nina Show.
Part of the family. Focus TV.
Well, thank you so much, Dr. Nina. Stay tuned. We'll be back with more on Good Morning La La Land.
We've been talking healing today on Good Morning La La Land for Transformation Tuesday. I'm so deeply grateful for all our guests and, of course, for a beautiful co-host here. I think part of the question that I have today is just, you know, if there was one thing that you either wish you knew when you were younger or one thing that you would want to share with people out there who are wanting to experience some kind of healing in their life. It might be physical, it might be psychological, it might be spiritual or emotional. What would you recommend, Dr. Nina?
You cannot measure your value on the bathroom scale. There are other ways of measuring your self-worth. Find them and embrace them and practice them.
I agree. For me, I would say stop caring about what other people think. Just worry about yourself, stay in your lane, and focus on you.
Mind your own business.
Yeah, it's so important. We had a very great psychic on the show a couple weeks ago, Todd Savas, and he told me, he goes, you know what, you're showing up for everybody else in your life, but you're not showing up for yourself. What would happen if you just show up for yourself, right? You don't show up on that scale to get validation by those numbers. You don't show up for your girlfriends and everybody else. What happens if you show up for yourself? Incredibly amazing things, right? It's so much more freeing if you just show up for you and how you need to show up for you.
Manifest what you want and just focus on that.
It's not selfish, it's self-care.
Self-love.
Yes.
And you can love everyone else better if you love yourself first, right?
Exactly.
For sure.
Easier said than done.
Well, thanks so much, you guys, for all your work and everything. So, what support groups have you found have worked the best for you guys? Have you found any supports or communities at all?
For me personally, I have a great network of girlfriends, and my mother-in-law has been a godsend. I have 4 sisters, so that helps.
Don't hear that all that often.
I know,
Mother-in-law's
that's
been
unusual.
That's great. I love hearing that.
That's great.
Sometimes in-laws can be challenging.
I'm creating this support group.
Oh, God.
Yeah, I am too. So we'll create one together.
Oh, we've got great support and community here at Focus TV. We are Good Morning La La Land, America's first live streaming daily talk show, coming to you Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. You can also listen to your favorite interviews as a podcast on iTunes. There we go.
That's right. We're waking up the world together. Please like, share, and comment. Have a divine day.
It's going to be a good morning, La La Land.